Morning everyone, I hope you're alright. I just wanted to check in with you and just to tell you how last night at Story went. We had our first evening and we had a good time. We had a good group of people, nice to see some familiar faces and some new people as well. We started off our first session with this one big question, as we hope to see how Jesus' story connects with our story. And the question was this: God is ... I mean, how would you complete that sentence? What would you say? We had all sorts of different answers. I wonder what would come to mind. God is imaginary. God is harsh. God is unloving. God is just a fictional character, something like that. And I asked that question simply because a lot of people say, well, I don't really believe in God. And to that, often the answer really, or the question should be, which God? Which God don't you believe in? Because the truth is, probably most Christians don't believe in that God either, that you're imagining in your head. So whatever he looks like, he's probably somewhere far up in the sky and a bit lonely and a bit bored. And so he wants to kind of dip his nose into other people's business. Well, I don't know what you thought about God, but Jesus tells a story to set the record straight. It's a really familiar story, and it's what we spent our time looking at last night. You may know the story. It's a story of one man, a father, and his two sons. And the two sons treat the father in some ways slightly differently. Firstly, I mean, you have the younger son who treats his father shamefully. He basically goes up to his dad and says, "Dad, I want my inheritance money now." I mean, if he was being a bit more blunt, he would have just said, "Dad, I want you dead. I want your things, but I'm really not that bothered if you stay around or not." He treats his dad shamefully, and once he's got the money, he grabs what he needs, and then he goes off to a faraway country, spends the money in a kind of wild lifestyle, but it doesn't work out that well for him. He runs out of money, a famine strikes, and he ends up working at a pig farm, actually so hungry that he'd willingly eat the pig food. It didn't work out as he'd planned. This young son treats his dad shamefully. But then there's the father, the dad, who treats this son astonishingly. He is on the lookout. Even when his son decides to come to his senses and walk back to his dad and say he was sorry, well, the dad's obviously being on the lookout waiting, and he sees his son from a long way off, and he comes running, like literally he Olympic sprints to him and gives him the biggest bear hug. It doesn't matter how much he stinks of pig muck, he loves his son. And he holds a party and he kind of brings him back into the family. There's no ifs or buts or probationary period. The son is back in the family, fully. This father treats his son astonishingly. And then of course there's the eldest son. We didn't talk about him too much last night, but the story is clear. The eldest son treats the dad angrily. He just cannot believe that his dad would welcome back such a waster. So this eldest son, he stayed at home, he worked on the farm, he didn't take the money early, he didn't go and live a wild lifestyle far away. He stuck at home, he stuck it out. He kind of gritted his teeth and served his dad. And he was furious that this waster of a young son would be welcomed back after all that he's done to his dad. As I said, we spent time just looking at the first two characters, the younger son and the father. And the youngest son who treats his father shamefully, well, Jesus says it's you, it's me. It's anyone who's on the run from God, who thinks, well, I'm not free, I'm not fulfilled, I'm gonna run far away, I'm gonna take God's things, but I could do without God in my life, to be honest. And we go off looking for freedom. We don't want God involved in our life. We don't want to know what he says. And we want fulfillment and satisfaction in other things. I mean, it could be good things like a job or a family, or just leisure hobbies, whatever. But Jesus is just telling this story to show in the youngest son how mad it is to run away from our Father, from our God, the one who's given us everything, the one who can satisfy us and look after us and care for us. He said it's mad, but it's also bad. I mean, I don't know how you felt about that youngest son. I think we're meant to think, gosh, what a wretch, what an idiot. How offensive is he to his dad? And actually that's what Jesus says sin is. We're just like that. Each one of us is on the run. It might not look exactly the same for everyone, but every one of us has said, well, I'd rather live life my own way. Thanks very much. And that's basically what the youngest son did. That's the youngest son. And Jesus is saying, like him, come to your senses. You just got to realize what you've done. And this youngest son kind of trudges up the road thinking, well, I'm really not sure after all I've done whether my father will have me back. And what Jesus says, the father who treats his son astonishingly, that is actually God himself, who treats us astonishingly. Anyone who would willingly come back and just say, I'm sorry, will be fully restored. And it's an amazing story. Ultimately, actually, Jesus is talking about his own life, his own death, his own resurrection. So too often we think that God is some kind of reclusive, restrictive God in the sky. But in Jesus we see that God's not that like that at all. He's like the running Father. He's like the restoring Father. As he comes running a long way, he comes to earth in Jesus, and he ends up actually on a cross with his arms wide open, taking the penalty for our sin and saying, I'll have you back. And I'll celebrate the fact that you're going to come back. That's the story. The youngest son who treats his father shamefully, and a father who treats his sons astonishingly. That is actually how we should see God. I wonder if that's what you said right at the beginning. God is ... like the running, restoring father. Did you think that? Well, whatever you thought, we would love to see you back next week for our next session story. We're going to be considering actually the story of the oldest son in particular, who treats his dad really angrily. The truth is, this oldest son actually is just as bad as the youngest son. And we're going to frame our discussion by the question, a Christian is ... What do you think a Christian is? We'd love to see you next week, Wednesday, 8 o'clock. 24th of June. Do email me for more information. We'd love to see you along, even if you've not been along this week. See you soon.